offers new and used vehicle sales and service. Vehicle sales is open 8:30 a.m. till 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday, with a Toyota Express Maintenance Center open 7:30 a.m. till 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. More information on Colville Toyota's vehicle inventory and services is available at colvilletoyota.com. A small-town dealership with a big heart.
And by Chihuahua Flooring.
Chihuahua Flooring at 214 East Clay in the 3rd Street Mall offers a wide variety of products including carpet, ceramic and porcelain tile, vinyl and laminate planks, and vinyl sheet flooring. Chihuahua Flooring carries products for both commercial businesses and residential homes, including brands like National Flooring, Del Tile, Mannington, and Mohawk. They also offer blind repair. For more information, you can visit online at chihuahuaflooring.com, call 509-935-8021, or via email at chihuahuaflooring@gmail.com.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Someday we're going to get better music than this.
I know, it's good. Fine. It's a little cheesy.
I do like the dorkiness of
Yeah.
it. I think it's fun. Welcome,
Small town.
everybody. We are here live on KCHW 102.7 with our monthly About the Arts interview with Tim Nielsen from the Trails End Gallery before our first Thursday Art Walk.
Woohoo.
Welcome, Tim.
Howdy.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
Thank you for coming. And we have a couple of lovely guests from the Women Painters of Washington who are going to be featured at this month's Art Walk at the Trails End Gallery. Welcome, ladies.
Hi.
How are you doing? So let's go ahead and start over here. Let's introduce yourselves.
My name
Start
is
with you.
T. Kurtz, and I am from Spokane, Washington. I am a pastel artist.
Outstanding. And I know you've been. You said this was your 3rd time on the show.
Correct.
So welcome back.
Thank you.
back. And now let's go over to you.
Hi, I'm Megan Perkins. I'm a watercolorist from Deer Park, Washington.
Outstanding. Let's get you guys a little closer to the mic so you guys are a little bit quiet. That's okay. It's a little rough getting used to this and projecting your voice. But you guys are doing great. So yeah, welcome. And you guys once again are the featured artists this month at the Trails End Gallery. Now I know T, you've been there before, and is this your first time there, Megan?
I was in Winterfest, not this last year, but the previous one, separate from Women Painters of Washington.
Okay.
So I've been at Trails End once before, but I'm super glad to be back. It's a great venue. Tim is great. Love being in Chihuahua.
Tim is great.
And if you want
He
to
never gets tired of hearing that
read
either.
off, there's 12 women painters.
Yeah,
And
tell
maybe
us.
she can read them off really quick. Who will be at the gallery tonight? I mean, it's for the show.
Yeah, perfect.
So they're not all physically present, but
The ladies with artwork at the gallery are Nancy Rothwell, Gail Scholl, Sarah Kate, Terry Rice, Carol Hartsock, Janet Fagan, T. Kurtz, Megan Perkins, Anna Lee Gresham, Laura Wise, Judy Kalin, and Dana Elzy.
Outstanding. So really quick, before we get into the nitty-gritty of what you guys are doing there, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the Art Walk and what we're going to expect this month, Tim.
well, we got a good lineup. Well, we always have a good lineup.
Yeah.
But so we'll have this evening, 6:30 at the brewery, will be the art talk, and I love having it there. I'm so grateful to Jake and Patrick for giving us that venue,
Yeah.
and so that works out really great. Now, tomorrow night for the actual art walk, obviously the Women Painters of Washington at Trails End Gallery. We've got the Little Dog Flower Farm. That's with Kim Thomas with the Little Dog Flower Farm, and Nancy Bloom at the Spotlight Gallery, which is the pop-up gallery.
Yep.
A couple doors down from us,
And
there's
just
that.
Oh,
Go
I'm sorry.
ahead.
And just confirmed, I confirmed it yesterday. We have a busker that's going to be outside busking. He goes by the name of Lefty, and he's a
I've met Lefty.
Yeah,
Good
phenomenal
music.
musician.
Yeah, good
really,
music.
He's got that twang and a steel guitar
Yeah.
that's really, really enjoyable. So
Yeah,
it's gonna be
and
good.
Marcy Bravo's window installation is in the 210 East Main building in the window, and it lit up at night. It's really awesome.
It is spectacular. Every single time I go outside at night when that thing is out there, there's people standing in front of it, pointing stuff out, watching it all.
Yeah.
She did an amazing job on
Yeah,
that.
she
It was
did.
gorgeous.
And then Margot Setti is at the Yale Press, and Margot does watercolor. And anyway, it'll be a good show.
And another late addition at the Quartzsite Brewery, Blake Weirs, our very own Monday night professor for the Rock Country. He is doing his very first art show, and he is featured at the Quartzsite Brewery.
Did
this
not
week.
know
Yeah.
that. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, he told me Monday. I think he was letting me know that to talk about his art over there too. So
Okay. All right.
it's cool stuff. I think some of it's even on like cardboard, and a lot of it looks like chalk. I haven't really gone over and seen it yet. I've seen photos of it, but it's fun stuff.
Okay. Anyway, and that's 5
Sorry.
to 8 p.m. on Thursday.
Outstanding. Now, let's go ahead and dive into the Women Painters of Washington. Now, this is a group that's been around for a while, correct?
90 years.
90 years.
Actually, it's 95 years
95.
now.
That is incredible.
It is. It was started by 6 women artists in 1930. They were tired of being award-winning, but not recognized and not finding a support group. There's a video that we found online. Hopefully,
Which
we can,
we'll show tonight
yeah, and
before the talk starts, I
Yeah.
guess, or whatever.
there was an art class that was given in 1930, and it had 6 women and 2 men. And after the class was over, the men went off and got to pat themselves on the back and tell themselves, how marvelous they are. And the women didn't have any place to go. They weren't included because they, of course, were women.
Wow.
So, Women Painters of Washington is an organization that was supposed to help promote artists, help them find their professional voice, and find a support group of other women artists. And it has grown. It's well over 200 members, and it goes across Washington State, which is really huge.
That is amazing.
Well, it's had a little over, 1,000 members since its inception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are lifetime memberships, and it's really incredible. Of course, the founding members, their work is now in the Frye Museum in Seattle.
Wow.
So fresh stuff in my mind. I was doing fresh research for this.
Thank you. That is outstanding. So it feels like the group itself, just their story behind it needs just that, like you said, there's a video. I feel like that needs to be, I know it is obviously, but it needs to be featured and honored. And what a phenomenal story behind that.
And in 1980, one of the members actually took the organization international and did a show. There was one that actually went to China or Japan, and they brought work over from that country here. And then they also did a residency with artists from Ireland. So,
Wow.
Yeah, they. I'd like to see them do more things like that again. But it's right now. There's the Columbia Bank Gallery in downtown Seattle. We have done shows with the Cole Gallery in Seattle. Of course, Tim's Gallery here, and there's some sort of outlying organizations that are part of Women Painters of Washington. But because the state is so big, it's very difficult for all of us to get over to the west side. So
Right.
we have to have our little splinter groups that meet and get back to the mothership, as we call it.
That's phenomenal. And Tim, could you fit all 200 artists in your gallery at once?
No.
Just us privileged few.
No, but it's really fun. I remember the first time I spoke with Nancy Rothwell, and who's head of the East Side chapter, and it took 3 years to get the first show to get on there, for them to have an opening, and they had to go back and talk about it and and work it out. And I remember after the show that we had here 2 years ago, getting back to them and asking if they would like to do another show in 2 years.
Yeah.
And I think they let me know within a week. They said, pencil us in. So that's good. I think it's an important show.
I think it is.
If you go through the gallery, I would say 95% of my artists are women.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't set it about to do it that way. That's just the way, you networking and everything
Right.
else, how things work out. But
That's been the flow of talent through Chihuahua.
but it's nice to have in the same way like the Winterfest. It's nice to have a big group to really anymore, it's not that often that we'll probably have solo shows
Mm-hmm.
because it's going to be smarter, I think, to have 2 or 3 people at a time, going forward, probably 26 on,
Yeah.
unless they're, some big kind of show that falls in your lap type of deal.
Right.
But,
Well, maybe for the women painters, you could do a cycle and have so many every cycle, like one of the art walks a year, have a few of them, and then
well, it's fun. I mean, a couple
It
of
is.
them stayed on and did the Winterfest, which
Mhm.
was cool, or did the Winterfest before their first show, I think, with T, and Megan, that you were, I think that was 2 years ago, the Winterfest that you were in, and now you're a member of this organization.
Yes.
But I think the challenge is, I don't think there's a real shortage of artists. The challenge is trying to accommodate, and
Mhm.
as you get more artists, maybe instead of some of those early on artists where you might have 15 pieces of their work there all the time, you maybe distill that down to try to give others to bring on more artists that you see that you like and you want to show their
Right.
work too. So that's the challenge. I've had people jokingly tell me, "You've outgrown this place already." And there's a degree of truth to that, but at the same time it's really kind of it's a smaller gallery,
right.
but it has a spacious feel to it. At the same time, it has an intimate feel.
It
And
does.
it's a
to it.
quality gallery, Tim. You have really worked hard to bring a good quality gallery to the area.
Thank you. But you can't do that without quality. We have quality artists.
Well,
So it's
what
just
I
nice to have a venue.
Oh yeah, what I love about it is it is a smaller space, but I have never once gone through and said, man, I wish there was more art. In fact, rarely do I ever make it through and actually look at everything. I still have to make multiple trips to actually get everything, really taken in. And I've had times where, and I think I've talked to you about this before, Tim, where I've gone in and looked at one art piece pretty much the whole time and been perfectly satisfied with that, and then you got to go back and do another one and go back through the week,
Well, it's fun. The art walk, the gallery night, first Thursday is really a incredible social community evening.
It is.
And a lot of people come in and haven't seen someone in and it just becomes a really nice gathering spot, a public space, and kind of like a pub.
Yeah.
And then some people are really on it and they want a red dot on that thing now, and some
Yep.
people will come back midweek when it's quiet and they'll linger over the gallery and then buy a piece of art or not, but it's fun how it works like that. Now we've done something this time too. I was doing postcards for a while, but we really realized that postcards can be just sent digitally, and so I'm taking those funds and applying them for this show because it's a big show. It's an important show. Took an ad out in the Inlander for this show, to market this show. And I think that's probably the way we'll go in the future. We'll work up to this. We get more and more people up from Spokane and down from other parts, and the show kind of becomes a destination, which is what we want, right?
Right.
You know, we want people to come to Chewelah and experience what Chewelah has to offer.
Oh, absolutely. I've spent the last 48 hours living, breathing, and sleeping how to bring people to Chewelah and writing grants about it. I understand. It's important, and I really think what you've done, with the Art Walk and your gallery, I think has been a huge part of this sort of bloom of creativity. And not even, we've talked about this before too. It's not even so much that it's new to Chewelah. It's really highlighting the talent that we have here and bringing in more people to recognize it and bringing in all those people from the other areas. But there's a lot of talent here.
And there is, and I think talent feeds on talent.
Exactly.
When you pull in talent from all over the state or even other states, I think it's important for artists to see what other works, what's going on. It's a visual medium, right? You know, I mean, when I was in art school, you loved going to galleries and museums and stuff all over the world, and you know that comes back, and
to see the inspiration that comes from it, and how many artists do we know that weren't artists? They didn't consider themselves artists a few years ago. They'd never done a show before, and now they're showing all over the place. And you really see them blossom and see their sort of the evolution in their art, and it's really, really amazing to see. Like you said, it just feeds on itself.
And it's an economic driver.
Yeah, it really is.
That's a proven fact.
Yep.
So
yeah, we could go on and talk about the creative economy.
And
all
it's
day long.
tariff free.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
local.
It is, yes.
No tariffs.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the Women Painters of Washington. This seems like this really sort of beautiful, long-standing, rich, traditional sisterhood. I'm assuming within the sisterhood, within the Women Painters of Washington, do you guys do any kind of collaboration where you do teaching lessons or?
No, not so much. More, we put shows together. The women painters that are exhibiting here at Tim's Gallery are from the Eastern Washington Division. We concentrate more right now on arranging for shows and getting our artists' work to the shows. I have a piece that was sent over to Seattle recently to the Cole Gallery. So it gets really hard to keep all of those moving pieces going, and when you have somebody who would set up like residencies or collaborations, well, attrition happens and those members eventually run out of steam, and so the direction of the organization might change, but we still focus on supporting and promoting women artists and supporting each other. And really, when it comes down to it, we all of us creatives need to have some sort of society that helps bolster us and helps to create that energy to move us forward, like you were talking about. Create that momentum.
Right.
And Spokane actually is an incredible jumping off place for an awful lot of artists. They don't have as many really good galleries like Tim's, but there's an awful lot of incredible talent there, and there's several shows that take place there.
Right.
But I have to admit, the next event that I'm excited about is a plein air event that Tim's going to be putting on at his gallery. I actually got a chance to drive around Chewelah into the back roads and find some neat places to put on my map so I can come back and paint there. I'm kind of excited about that.
Outstanding. That's always a great one. The plein air event and the things that people do like quickly. It blows my mind. I'm not an artist. I find it to be a mystical, magical thing that I only dream of being able to be half as talented as any of these people. And to be able to go sit down in the spur of the moment and create something as amazing as what they create is absolutely incredible.
Well, not all of us can sit here behind a a screen with all of those buttons and make sound go out to the ether. So we all have our talents.
The only key to behind this is to not be afraid of making a fool of yourself. Once you get over that and not worry about it, then and really what that takes is making a fool of yourself enough times to where you just become numb to it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That sounds like something that could be related to plein air painting as well.
Yeah, it could.
Right. So I want to hear a little bit about. Oh,
Hang
sorry, Kim.
on a second.
Nancy just wanted you to mention the WPW website.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, we do have a website. It is womenpainters.com. It talks about the history. It also gives you a membership list and the current shows that are going on and the upcoming events.
Outstanding.
So, yeah, definitely. That's a good place to go. Thanks, Nancy.
Outstanding. So if someone were to want to become a member of the Women Painters of Washington, how would they go about doing that?
There is an application process. You actually send in your work to the organization, and we have a committee that actually goes through and looks at all the work. And they have criteria for what makes an artist that can be included. One of the things that you have to prove, though, is a professional commitment to your craft. And you actually have to show on a resume that you have done shows in the area that were juried, shows out of the area, so that you can say, yes, I'm a professional artist. And, I've got students who do work that is every bit as good as mine, but they don't want to be a professional artist.
Right.
And their resume reflects that. So that's another part of what they look for.
So this isn't for the casual artist. This is for
No.
professional artists.
This is not for emerging or hobby artists. This is for the professionals.
Outstanding. And so you got to prove your mettle.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's great. So I want to hear a little bit about your individual history, your art styles, that kind of thing. And Megan, I want to go with you. I kind of gave a little lead into that, so I didn't blindside you with it. So Megan, go ahead and where did you get started with your art? What was there a point where you were just like, I want to be an artist, and started to come naturally?
Well, like many artists, you could say that I was interested in art and artistic from when I was very small. But also, like many people, I did not really think that was a possible job option for many, many years.
Right.
So I made art on the side and drew all through school. But when I graduated, I ended up working a whole range of jobs. And one of them for a while was an office job where I was remote managing about 4 or 5 different offices. And I managed to give myself a repetitive strain injury with all the computer work. So I quit to recover from that. And I was drawing again to sort of try to strengthen my arm and get everything back together. And then it's sort of fallen to the wayside, what with graduating and getting married and moving and jobs and all of that. So it was really nice to get back to it. And my husband was like, well, we'd met in college, so he knew I was into art back then. In fact, he'd hang around and watch me like work on painting and talk to me while I was working on assignments in the art studio.
Right.
And so he knew I was really into it. And he said, well, why don't you... because I was fretting about not being able to go back to a job and not being able to do things with computers. He said, why don't you just do this art thing? So I decided, sure, I'll do that. And so watercolors has always been a popular medium with me, and that's my primary medium these days. And I love it because it is expressive, it's beautiful, it's emotional, and then on top of that, it's also portable and easily washable. So I take it with me all over. I like to travel foreign countries like India and Japan, but also to the wilds of Chihuahua and Spokane and the Palouse, and paint on location in plein air pretty regularly as part of my practice.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you said primarily these days is watercolor. Have you dabbled in other mediums?
Yeah, I've painted in oil and gouache, which is an opaque watercolor.
Did you say like gouache with like a G in front of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's spelled Gouache, French word. So
Okay.
obviously pronounced as though many letters don't exist.
Right.
Yeah, gouache. So it's basically
Gouache.
the same sort of pigment as watercolor, but it's more opaque. So you can use it sort of like you would oil or acrylic, but the layers underneath are still water soluble, so they can lift. So you still have to be very sort of efficient with what you're doing, so you don't end up with a big muddy mess.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it has the joy that you can paint over your mistakes if you're swift and decisive about it. Unlike watercolor, where you just have to sort of decide whether you can live with it or whether you're trashing that thing and trying again.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, T, why don't you take us on your journey?
Well, my mother was a professional artist, and I've been doing art shows since I was 6 years old, schlepping and selling somebody else's stuff. And so it's kind of the family business. I want to say probably about 2010, I inherited my grandparents' art supplies and started doing pastel because it was the one medium my mother never touched. And I didn't want to compete with her in any way possible. So I started doing pastels. I was also a professional nail tech at the same time. And as time progressed, I got better and better. But there was a point where I did not want to say I was an artist because I didn't think I was good enough.
Right.
And I understood that there's a certain level of expertise and professionalism and drive that you have to achieve in order to be a professional artist. When I got to that point, then I stepped out, and now I look back on those pieces, and I am so grateful for everyone who supported me and purchased my work, and they were lovely pieces. But I have really changed and grown as an artist in the intervening years.
Was when you finally make that realization that I am a professional artist, is it something where you hit a wall and you're like, okay, I'm an artist now, or is it something you look around and all of a sudden it dawns on you, I'm a real artist, I'm a professional artist?
No, it was more looking for that barrier, that line that I felt like I had crossed at a certain level of ability.
Right.
My work looking back before then, it wasn't quite good enough to turn into prints, to do. I might have one or two pieces that were exceptional. And I consider that sort of looking into the future. The more work that you produce, maybe one in every 10 pieces, you might do something that goes beyond your ability in a way that's incredible. And you're looking at that piece and you're just like, I can't believe I did that.
Right.
The funny thing is, those pieces that you do that step so far into your future, they don't sell right away because nobody sees them. They see the overall body of work, and that fantastic piece that you've done sort of blends into the background until you reach that level again. And you can tell that you're getting close to that because all of a sudden the piece sells and it's gone.
Right.
And people constantly ask me, don't you want to keep your pieces? And no, I like living with some of them for a long time. Like when Tim looks at me and says, okay, you can take these pieces home. Every once in a while, there's one that's just like, yes, I get to take this home for a while. And that's wonderful,
Yeah.
being able to do that. But I don't get attached to my work in such a way that I want to hang on to something for forever.
Right. Right.
There was one year I did 145 pieces. Trying to hang on to every single one of those is just nuts.
Like my wife with my kids' art. We
Yes.
can't get rid of any of that. Oh. So did you have a moment where how was your moment when you finally were like, I'm a professional artist now? Was it a goal that you reached that you knew, or?
Well, trying to figure that out, a professional artist, I had a more perhaps practical approach to that. I am being paid for this, and I have a business card and I have a business license. Therefore, I am a professional artist.
Outstanding.
So yes, I did a project in the first year that sort of launched as my my journey as a professional artist, where for a week every single year for 52 weeks I went to a different location in Spokane and drew and painted on that location, whether it was an event like the Spokane Fair or Bloomsday, or whether it was someplace like Manitou or Riverfront Park. And at the end of that, I had several hundred paintings, and I talked to a lot of people, and so I got very quickly over the whole shyness about calling myself an artist or saying that I was a professional. I just had to talk to a lot of people, and so I adjusted to that pretty quickly. And in general, I think that people tend to assign a very hallowed significance to the idea of being an artist. I am a teacher, T is also, but I spend a lot of time wrestling with my students where they have you have to play sort of head games where people are like, oh, I'm not artistic, so I can't do this. And I have to say that, frankly, as an instructor, it makes me kind of mad, because I think everyone is capable of creativity and doing artistic things, even if they don't necessarily want to be professional artists. So I don't like it when people are downplaying their abilities.
Right.
You can play soccer and enjoy it without having to be doing the English Premier League.
Right.
And I don't know why people feel like in order to be artistic, they have to be at the professional level. It can be about enjoyment. So I am professional because I am paid. People pay me for that, the artwork, and I have all the important paperwork. Therefore, I don't have to define it whether it's a certain level of goodness, because as T was discussing, when you're making work, there is a large amount of development and change that you see in your work, and work that you were happy with at the time and that other people love, you may not feel the same way about in 10 years and so on, 20. So there's always progression in being an artist and in also being a business owner. So that could be a moving target if you don't create a specific definition as to what makes you a professional.
Yeah.
I just keep it simple.
What do you guys have for advice for people that are maybe not realizing they're ready to transition, people that are ready, people that, because we've all known artists that, Tim, I know you know, that need that little push where their work is at the level they just don't realize it yet. Don't push them. Okay.
Yes, I do art shows all of the time, and parents walk up with this poor, embarrassed, appalled teenager.
Yeah.
And their parents are like, can you tell my son, daughter, niece, sister, brother that he's good enough and can do this for a living? And I look at them and say, don't push them that way. And then I look at the person that they have drug reluctantly into the display, and I say, when you are ready to put your work in front of the public, then consider it. But at this point, just do it for the joy.
Right.
And when I'm teaching classes, I look at my students and say, nothing you do here is going to stop the world from spinning. Stop taking it seriously.
Right.
When you and your family members push somebody who is talented and creative into trying to be professional, it can rob them of joy, because being a professional artist is hard work. And sometimes when you have deadlines for shows, trying to punch something out can actually take away that creative spark. So you don't push.
I understand that here. Lots of times there's things I need to do that I would normally otherwise enjoy, recording things, editing things. But when I have a deadline, I find it gets so much harder. Even if it's a quick little 10, 15 minute thing, doing sound bites or doing some, recording or even something silly. If I know I have to do it, if I have to get it done before a show, it feels so much harder. And it takes so much longer, because whether you overanalyze it or you procrastinate and put it off, usually that's what I do. I put it off till I'm out of time.
The other thing that I would say is a lot of people come into the display and they'll go, wow, look at all this talent. And I will, spread my fingers apart maybe like an inch, and I'll say, it's this much talent. And then I'll spread my arms wide and I'll say, and it's that much practice.
Right.
Like
Amen.
What Megan was saying, there's no reason you have to have a lot of talent to enjoy doing art.
Right.
And really, when it comes down to it, to be successful at anything, that talent just gives you a sort of push in the right direction, but it's the hard work that's going to carry you over the distance.
Well, they always say that's true in music too. It's 25% talent and 75% your business skills.
Yeah.
You know, you go to any club on any given night and you're going to hear music that's as good as anything you hear on the radio. But I think the difference between, well, in some cases it's who you know. But, you know, a lot of it is how hard you work to get to that point. And Tim, I kind of wanted to get your take on the same question on when you have artists that you see, you know, maybe their work is show ready, but the artist isn't. How do you, what's your advice to the artist, or what do you do in those situations?
Well, very often I tell artists, you should submit for the Winterfest.
Yeah.
You know, I might look at their work and think, okay, does it fit in the gallery right now? Do I want to, you know, what are they showing?
Mm-hmm.
And because I'll get people who show, you know, they'll pull out their phone and it's not really what I want. You know, I would rather, you know, that they email me and kind of let me digest it and look at it and blow it up. And,
Right.
But I can look at it pretty quickly and see what I'm looking for something like everyone else. You know, it's like a colored stone dealer looking for the best stone in a tray of stones.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's just how it works. You know, I think any artist will cultivate their eye over time, but I'm maybe in the position of, at the same time, looking at all that and trying to decide, is this person, you know, ready? Or, you know, I've only had a few artists come in that you saw the breadth of their work pretty quickly and thought, yeah, I would do a show with that, you know, and that hasn't usually been the case. And some are offended when you look at what they've got and you know, and you just go, no, it's just, in my mind, I'm going, it's just not, there's some talent there, but they're not ready.
Right.
You know, they're not of that level yet to where I would want their work in the gallery.
Right. Do you ever find yourself in the opposite situation where maybe the work is ready, but the artist isn't?
Oh, that was your question to start with.
Well, they were both my questions, but yeah.
No, I haven't. Honestly, I haven't encountered that yet. But, you know, getting back to it, you see it, you know, you should try the Winterfest.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great way to have you shown before. Well, no, but some people said I should come to you and this would be a good place for my art. And it's like, well, I have something to say about that. And I don't see it fitting right now, but I would encourage you to submit for the Winterfest. It's a juried event, you know, and I've had people go, well, I don't do juries, you know, that's, and then I'm just go, well, I can't.
That's pretty much a tell if they say I don't do jury
I know,
shows.
I know.
It's like, okay, well, that's great for you.
Have fun.
But, you know, I mean, I look at, okay, yeah, I got a degree in art, a BFA, but having a gallery has been really interesting. I mean, my wife and I, we've been collecting art a long time.
Boy, have they. It is fabulous in your house. Oh,
I
my
can
God.
imagine.
And, you know, and I feel like the gallery reminds me of our house in a way that we've got all different kind of styles. And what's the thread? We love it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's high-end charcoal rubbing, there's oils, there's acrylics, there's ceramics, there's bronzes that I did in college that are doorstops, basically. But, you know, it's I don't even know where I was going with this, but it's just interesting, you know, and from my point, I just feel like as I've cultivated this eye through having a gallery, it's one thing to have been collecting, but now the gallery, it's collecting of a different way. You know, you're kind of collecting artists that you really love their work.
Right.
And the thing is, when you love someone's work, and even if it's not necessarily something you would have on your wall, maybe you would if you were just bottomless pits of money.
Right.
But you can look at that work and I can talk about anything that's in the gallery.
Yeah.
Credibly. I may not, I've never been a pastel artist, but I understand pastel. I can read composition and color and just, wow, look at this, or isn't this interesting? Look at this juxtaposition of this or that. And it's really fun in that sense that when you get work in the gallery, and I just feel like the caliber keeps going up. It's so much fun to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm a jeweler, and yeah, there's days where I should have had my rear glued to my seat so I can finish my jewelry work. But it's so easy to talk about art,
Oh, you've
and
got all
it's
that cool
really
stuff.
easy when you've got all this really interesting stuff, really good art in there. It makes it really fun.
Oh yeah. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, do you ever find yourself with your jewelry making? Do you ever find yourself, on a deadline, or you've got something that you have to get done, and you just like, I just want to stay out here and talk about art?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. When T came in today, well, I'm just finishing. Let me just.
I have an hour left on this.
Yeah,
Okay, Tim, go
and
go work.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
can you watch the gallery? I got to run to FedEx. I had to
Yeah.
ship it off to the client in Colorado, I'm really at the limit of my available time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really wearing too many hats in the gallery right now, and I like all the individual hats. Believe me, but
Well,
you
being
can't wear them all at the same time.
Yeah, being a professional artist, we're constantly juggling a whole bunch of balls in the air.
Oh yeah.
I mean, inventory control, and then there's promotional and scheduling and designing and contacting, communicating with your galleries and things like that. So yeah, getting into the studio, sitting at the easel, sometimes it feels like escape and sometimes it feels like a burden, but
Right.
That's all part of being a professional.
You didn't even include the traveling in that, what
No.
you just mentioned.
No, or getting the bearings replaced in the front end of my Suburban so I
Right.
can do shows. Yeah.
Which the traveling in itself is probably a
Oh.
blessing and a curse. Sometimes it's probably wonderful, and sometimes you just want to get there and do it and get back, right?
Yes. There's an awful lot of territory and land that I have seen over the years. And, especially traveling with my mother when I was promoting her, when the show was over, it didn't matter what you were looking at. My mother, as far as she was concerned, if she was a horse, she'd be barn sour. She'd be heading straight back for the barn. We
Yep.
weren't stopping for anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Especially a lot of that stretch between Spokane and the Tri-Cities down there, where it's
Try to stretch
beautiful,
between.
but like the surface of the moon.
Try the stretch between Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Yakima, Washington.
Ooh,
Yeah, that was a long drive. We also went to Kansas City, Missouri.
Are we there yet?
Are we there yet? Yeah.
will we be there tomorrow?
No.
Keep driving. My family and I, we traveled full time on the road for 4 years with our
Oh,
kids in
wow.
an RV, and they were. We spent a lot of that time of just where everything just. It almost, you get this sensation almost like you're standing still, and everything's just kind of moving past you, and that's when you know it's time to stop and stretch your legs and
When you're
get
doing
something to eat.
when you're doing that kind of distance, I'd get to Deer Lodge, Montana, and I would feel like I was in my backyard.
Yeah.
Even though I still had another 6 hours to go, but I was within distance of my house.
You could see the light.
I could see the light,
Yeah.
even though there was another 6 hours to drive. Oh my God!
Oh, absolutely. And that that even changes as you go.
Yes.
There's times when I'm driving home and I hit the casino. I'm like, oh, I'm only at the casino. And there's times where I hit Deer Park and I'm like, whoo, I'm in the home stretch now.
Yes, you are. Yep.
All right, so we only have a few minutes left here in our hour. Is there anything else you guys would like to talk about?
Come see the show.
Yeah.
Absolutely, come see the show. I mean, Megan's work is incredible. Nancy's is. Mine's not so bad either, but
She's being modest.
there are 9 other incredible talents definitely worth taking a look at, and
The range of media is very fascinating. We've got pastels, watercolor, acrylic, oil, and some wood burning.
and encaustic.
And encaustic.
Yes, and Tim's already sold a piece, so come on now.
Good sign.
I love the encaustic work, and I control myself. I swear, I promised him, but I really have a hard time not touching it. I don't.
I was going to say the first WPW show, I think there were 8 artists.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so we're up to 12 now. And when I was talking with Nancy, I said, well, we just had the Winterfest show. We had 89 pieces. And I finally got to use my movable walls to really see how, and it works great. She goes, well, we've got some people with some big pieces. And I was like, bring it on. It's your show. I will figure out how to hang it, because I felt like I had cracked the code by being able to move the walls around, expand and contract the space as I need, and which is pretty cool. And I will say, hopefully a year from now, my wife Nandis Taylor, she'll be retire from her job, and she will
at 39.
Yeah.
She's retiring young.
And she will, our goal is that she'll manage the gallery. It's not that I won't be part of it, but the day-to-day out front, I'll get more work done.
Right.
We still need all these things to work, and I do have a wholesale jewelry custom business, and then my own stuff, local stuff, and then if I get time, it's fun to make something of my own for the case. But, and right now I've got most of the shows formulated for 2026. So you always have to be looking out, I think, at least a year and a half, year to a year and a half ahead, to figure out the shows you want. And I love a show like this with this many artists. What a great way to see 12 different viewpoints.
Yeah.
And 12 different expressions. And I think that is an absolute treat for the town.
I agree.
To be able to see that just in the same way the Winterfest.
Well, there's so many different styles. I mean, just looking at the show, you have everything from representational to completely abstract. And it's incredible. The Anna Lee piece that sold is a murmuration of birds flying, but it's not, it's not accurately representational. It flows more like the energy of the birds. It's a beautiful piece. The person who got it is so incredibly lucky.
Oh, yeah.
Pyrography. It's burned, wood burned, and then painted.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And like you're saying, you get to see their different visions. That's going back to the plein air event. Talk about a literal depiction of seeing somebody's vision in the moment. And I just think it's phenomenal. And there's so many different pieces and so many different interpretations of what they're seeing that it's
Can I
phenomenal.
talk about that real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the plein air, this year's plein air weekend is Memorial Weekend again. So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think the 23rd, 24th, 25th. And it's only $10 to enter and a maximum of 5 pieces submitted. And my goal all along with this show was that we would get enough artists and enough pieces that we would have to have venues all over town.
Yep.
And so this year I've already committed to it that we're going to split the loot, so to speak, with the Yale Press.
Nice.
And they sell art. They get a lot of people that go in there daily. I'm one of them. And it's really fun to me to
Oh, yeah.
to see that growth. You know, I'll have some stuff I have to kind of put it back in the middle of the gallery. I'll figure it out. It's always and I'll figure it out, but I will. And I think that's really fun to kind of spread it out like that.
Yeah.
And it is really fun. It's so much fun to Margot, who's currently showing at the Yale Press. She was so funny, you know, and she lives here. At last year's plein air show, she goes, I live here and I ate out just about every meal. She goes, it was like going to another city. She just thought it was so much fun, you know,
Yeah.
just traveling around and stop here, get a bite here, do this, that, and
Oh yeah.
and it's fun. I think we had 22 or 23 artists last year that produced 61 pieces, I think. I'm hoping we have more. You know, it was just really successful, a lot of fun, a lot of really fun, fast, you know,
Yep.
beautiful. You know, I think it's good for an artist. It kind of reminds me of when we would do warm-up drawings in Life Drawing, and
Right.
we would do our 5-second drawings, our 1-minute drawing, and you'd finally graduate to maybe a hour-and-a-half drawing.
Yeah.
But it's really fun to learn how to work fast and be more economical and think. And, you know, T can say she was out scouting where she would
Oh,
want to
yeah.
paint today, you know, and I think that's fun.
I think maybe with the weather coming, people are itching for it. I swear, you're like the fourth person this week that has talked to me about the plein air event
That's
and
cool.
already planning it, looking forward to it, asking when it was. So it's Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
And they come into the gallery, you know, that Friday or Saturday. We had one artist, I think last year, Janine, that could only paint one day, so she painted a Saturday or a Sunday, that type of thing. But you come in, you check in, you bring in your substrate, paper, board, whatever you're working on, and we make a little mark on it so we know that you're painting it this weekend. And then it's all in the honor system. Then you go out, you know, your only reference material supposed to use is what you see, you know, whether it's a urban scene or pastoral or mountains or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, and then it all comes back in by 4 p.m. on Sunday. And then that's really fun. I very quickly take some pictures and I put a poster together. I sent it in Monday morning, and Tuesday afternoon I had the poster for the plein air show. And I just think that's really fun.
Nice. Or I believe there was one that was even an outhouse one time.
Yeah.
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 And it was gorgeous. It was the most beautiful outhouse you ever saw.
Oh, wait. No, I think you're talking about the photography show.
Oh,
That
it
was
might
the
have-
photography
It might
show.
have been photography.
That was funny.
Oh, sorry. That was a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are a little over time. We just want to let everyone know
Oops.
so today coming up, we got the art talk coming up in a little bit.
Art Talk, 6:30, Quartzsite Brewery.
Awesome.
6:30 to 8. It's usually done by 7:30ish, 7:45, and then we do a soft open at the gallery. People can get a preview of tomorrow night's open. And I will say in the past, we've sold art at those previews. You know, people who really want to get that first look.
Oh, I'm sure they get early bird gets
So,
the
yeah.
art.
That's
and then
right.
tomorrow, the Yale Press, the Spotlight Gallery, and obviously the brewery,
Mhm.
and then Trails End Gallery from 5 to 8 p.m.
Yep.
And yeah,
Hope to see everyone out there. You guys, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate it.
Thank
Steve,
you for
Megan,
having
Tim,
us.
it's always a pleasure. And T, you're welcome back anytime, of course.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, well, you are too, Meg. Everybody here in this room is welcome back anytime. Really had a great time. So again, Art Talk, 6:30 at the brewery tonight.
yes,
Art Walk tomorrow, 5 to 8
yes.
around town. There's going to be lots of great stuff going on. You can tune in right here tonight on KCHW from 6 to 8 p.m. for Music for the Mountain. 8 to 10 p.m. is Dirt Road Blues with our very own Dirt Road Doug McQuain. Then we have Planetary Radio, Sea Change Radio, Echo Shock Total, and Earth Date. We hope you guys have a great evening out there. Have a safe drive home for those of you commuting. And again, hope to see y'all out there. Thank you so much for coming in, and thank you for listening to KCHW 102.7, your Northern Lights Public Radio. Programming on KCHW brought to you in part by New Health. New Health is dedicated to providing 5-star health care to communities across Northeast Washington. With locations in Chewelah, Colville, Ione, Loon Lake, Newport, 9 Mile Falls, and Springdale, they offer comprehensive